exactly right, Cecil. Rick James into Cecil Hurt of the Tuscaloosa News and TideSports.com. Happy New Year, Cecil.
Happy New Year. I wasn't expecting to go through Sausalito.
You got to go there. You got to check out the record plant.
Oh,
you know,
would love to have time. Sausalito. I've been to Sausalito. It's lovely.
It really is crazy,
down there
isn't
among
it?
the houseboats. Yeah, it's a different place. The other side of the bridge from San Francisco, but really, you can see down there, hang out among the houseboats and
Yeah, the houseboats in Sausalito are next level. I mean, if you haven't seen those and you're going out there, Sausalito is a cool stop anyway. It's unlike anything you would see typically in the continental USA. But if you had time, Cecil, and you had a couple of spots that you could hit, what would be at the list, top of the list for Cecil Hurt from a tourist standpoint in that Bay Area? Two spots, in your opinion, that you have to try to hit if you're going to be out there in the Bay Area.
Well, if you've never been down to Fisherman's Wharf and look down across Alcatraz and the Bay and across the Golden Gate Bridge, you want to do those things. If you've been a few times, the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art is outstanding. Thinking about it earlier, a couple of the younger members of my staff, they had no clue what Haight-Ashbury was. They had no idea what. I said, y'all should go down to Haight-Ashbury. They had no idea. So, but that's definitely a part of pop rock history, if that's the kind of thing that you're into. But it's just San Francisco is just a really vibrant city. Palo Alto, like Half Moon Bay, and some of those communities beyond Palo Alto on the coast. Drive down on Highway 1 from Palo Alto down toward Pebble Beach and that direction. It's beautiful. So, there are a million things to do. They just take time to do them, and in many cases, a little bit of cash money as well.
Yes, they do. My advice would be, don't be afraid to just tourist it out. One of the things you touched on earlier, if you've got time to do the Alcatraz tour, it's awesome. Go ahead and do that. I thought it was incredible when we did it, but just go full tourist. Immerse yourself into the tourist label there.
Sure, and there's a lot to do. It's fun. The Bay Area is not just San Francisco. You can go to Berkeley and have a great time and see that part of our history. But yeah, if you've never been to San Francisco, you can go to Lombard Street and Coit Tower and so forth. But and it's well worth it. One of the great cities in the world, San Francisco.
Yeah, if you only have a day, just jump on the big bus, the two-tiered bus, pay the $60. There's about 20 different stops it makes, and you can see a lot in a very, very little bit of time. Now, Cecil, it seems like the rest of the country is sort of waking up to the fact that this game is, in fact, going to be competed out there in the Bay Area. And with that, the buzz doesn't seem to be what it was in Atlanta just a year ago. Imagine that, Cecil. Or I know you're surprised by this, right?
I'm not. I understand wanting to rotate to the West Coast, but watching that Rose Bowl on Saturday and the setting and the stadium, I don't know why we're not in L.A., but I'm not going to complain about it. My job is to show up and work, but I'll be interested to see how people think that the atmosphere is. Levi Stadium among NFL people, hadn't gotten the greatest reputation. Very interested to see how the turf is. They played the Red Box Bowl, the classic Red Box Bowl matchup there last week, and immediately started ripping up turf and putting in new turf. But sometimes that helps, and sometimes that's not the most stable surface in the world. So we'll see how it is. Worth an experiment. event, but when you've got a AT&T Stadium and a Superdome and a Mercedes-Benz all available to you, I don't know. And then playing out west, either in Glendale or in Pasadena, that seems to work for me.
Cecil, let's talk about the matchup in general. Just a thought or two in terms of an area where you think Alabama goes into this game with a somewhat sizable advantage, perhaps, and then maybe an area where Alabama is going to have to clean things up the most between Oklahoma and Clemson.
Yeah, Alabama had some mistakes, some things that I think Nick Saban wasn't happy about at the time, probably wasn't happy about in the first couple of days of practice here in Tuscaloosa. Just mistakes where Alabama hurt themselves. Unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, guy taking off his helmet, and those kind of things, as well as some missed assignments here and there. I still think Alabama's offensive line against Clemson's defensive line will be a really good matchup. Alabama handled those guys okay last year. Alabama was able to run the football. So how that'll match up this year, it'll be interesting to see. But Alabama's going to try and run, try and establish the run, and then Clemson's got championship game experience. So Lawrence is a great talent, but he doesn't have championship game experience. He's been on big stages, but not quite this large. But he may be up to it. It's a tough task, but he did it last year. I will say, looking at Clemson's schedule so far, and this is an easy thing to say because there aren't many quarterbacks like Tua. They hadn't faced a quarterback when Tua was on, and he was on against Oklahoma. They hadn't had a quarterback like that to have to contain. So I think Alabama's got some advantages in those areas. Need to find some answer in the punting game, get a little more yardage there.
Cecil, were you surprised by the initial line coming out at -6, -6.5 in favor of Alabama? Did you think that was a little low? Did you think it was about right? Where did that sort of strike you? Yeah,
about right. Clemson's been impressive down this stretch. They covered easily against Pitt. They covered easily against Notre Dame. That's what bettors are looking for. Alabama didn't cover against Georgia, didn't cover against Oklahoma. So I thought that would be, 6.5, somewhere in that range. Had it been a month ago, you'd probably have seen Alabama -10 or so. But like I say, Clemson's played well. Alabama's certainly won the games, but they hadn't covered, and that's what bettors look at.
Talking with Cecil Hurt of the Tuscaloosa News and TideSports.com on a Thursday edition of Southern Fried Sports presented by Carty and Lloyd Attorneys at Law and Mercedes-Benz of Tuscaloosa. Cecil, 12 years ago today, Alabama officially makes the hiring of Nick Saban known here in Tuscaloosa. One or two things from that day that are sort of entrenched in your memory banks. I mean, obviously the hire in general was huge, seismic in terms of the reaction to it, but just sort of the events and how they played out that day, Saban's arrival out at the Tuscaloosa airport, the sort of craziness and all that.
I was not in that scrum. I was at the football building, where have an opportunity to talk to the new coach when they brought him in, and I'd actually known Coach Saban somewhat when he was at LSU, so that was a little bit of an advantage. But no, I wasn't in the airport craziness. But remember, I do remember that. I remember how happy Malmore was, how hard he had worked over the month of December, particularly the last couple of weeks of December, and had basically, after the Rich Rod thing fell apart. Mal had basically staked his reputation on being able to get Nick Saban, and once he was able to do it, I think nobody expected. Let's not pretend the kind of dynasty that's been established. But I think fans did expect that eventually they'd win the national championship and keep the national championship with Nick Saban. Now, if they were honest, most of the fans would say, if I told you that you have the 4-year arc, where you won a national championship, and he coached at Alabama 5 years, beat Texas, won a national championship, he beat LSU in New Orleans, and he said, well, I'm going back to the NFL. I don't know most Alabama fans are taking that on this day from a huge day, and never batted an eye, just to get back into that national championship, SEC championship level. And I don't know that there were very many people who thought that Nick Saban would be around 12 years later.
Incredible run. And to think, Cecil, Rich Rodriguez, a few days ago, named offensive coordinator at Ole Miss. My house things sort of work out, huh?
Yeah. He'll probably be good at that when get some players in there if they can, start to recruit back up. Coach Luke showing that he doesn't have the ego. He doesn't mind bringing in the former head coaches to help him out. And so hopefully that's a positive for him.
Yeah, and as we know, Rich Rod very much an A-type, right? So
definitely.
You better have that sort of ability that you outlined with Matt Luke if you're going to bring in not only a former head coach, but Rich Rod gets after it pretty good on the sideline on game days. Hey, Cecil, big basketball game at Coleman Coliseum on Saturday. Unfortunately, a lot of us aren't going to be around to be able to take it in, although we'll be glued to television sets on the other side of the country, no doubt about it. Alabama welcomes Kentucky to Coleman Coliseum Saturday for a midday affair. Your thoughts on this team as it enters conference play, especially against competition like it will see from UK?
Yeah, Alabama's playing better. Dante Hall's playing much better. Really been a factor, since the Georgia State loss, which was a bad loss. Nobody tried to sugarcoat it. Alabama's played pretty well against decent opposition. Not gonna say Stephen F. Austin's Final Four team, but that's the best gym to play in. They've beaten Arizona, they've beaten Penn State, they've beaten Liberty, who put the end to Steve Alford's career, if nothing else you could say about by beating UCLA. So a nice run. They seem to have stabilized. Dante, as I said, really playing much better around the basket offensively. Riley Norris, his return has been a big factor. He made some big shots in the last game. Kyra Lewis continues to improve. They're still working with the rotation. There's still some guys where he's not getting the minutes that he was getting. But it's coming around. But now, something can be said for Kentucky, which may have gotten a little bit of addition by subtraction, when Quade Green left and sort of reduced their rotation down. And they played really well. I watched almost all of their game against Louisville. And they are, we were in Fort Lauderdale, but it's always a good time to watch UK and U of L. So Kentucky played really well, really impressive. And so it's going to be a real test for Alabama. And while as you say, students won't be there, and there'll be some fans out in the Bay Area, there still should be enough to have a good turnout. Of course, there'll be a lot of blue in Coleman Coliseum, but there are a lot of Alabama fans who aren't making the trip, and that'll be a great game.
Pretty big official visitor on hand Saturday too, right? And Trendon Watford over from Mount Brook.
Going to come down and take his official visit. The 5-star from Mountain Brook down to Alabama, Indiana, LSU, and Memphis. And so he's certainly been on campus many, many times, but this is his official visit before he signs in the late signing period in April.
Is that pesky Penny Hardaway? Is he the biggest concern up there at Memphis, you think, for Alabama with
Yeah,
Watford?
because the Watfords have a they've got a relationship there from via AAU. So yeah, I would say Alabama and Memphis are probably the top two, but Indiana, his brother played at Indiana, and they're certainly in there working hard as well. And LSU, Will Wade's certainly shown that he can get players. So but again, the relationship with Mike Miller, the assistant at Memphis, probably makes them a factor. But Alabama's a factor too. They've worked Watford for probably since he was in the 8th grade, and just continue to sort of hang in there.
As we let you go, Cecil, our guy, Mean Gene Okerlund, passed away yesterday at the age of 76. You talk about formative voices, right? Throughout our sports and entertainment television consumption years, Mean Gene right there at the top of the list.
Really, when was part of that WWF explosion, had been in Minnesota, had been in the AWA for many years, and when Hulk Hogan, who was obviously the face of the new WWF in more ways than one, came over and he urged Mr. McMahon to hire Gene, and what a great hire it was, and the classic promos, not only with Hulk, but with Randy Savage, with so many of the kind of over the top wrestlers. Gene was a perfect foil for those over the top guys, because you could tell he was kind of in on it, but he played it straight and let those guys do what they wanted to do, and became and was also just obviously a nice guy. That the wrestlers liked him. They enjoyed being around him, and not the most technical guy calling a match, but in terms of doing a promo, there wasn't anybody better than Gene Okerlund.
Okay, so we had this discussion, and it had a tweet yesterday. It ended up attracting a lot of replies. It was a lot of fun. My top 3 wrestling announcers / voices of my lifetime are Gordon Soley, first and foremost, Jim Ross, and then Gene Okerlund. But if you had to come up with a 3-man booth, so to speak, Cecil, it may not be those 3, because a couple of them kind of did the same thing. Who would be your play-by-play, your analyst, and your interview / promos guy? Give me those 3.
Soley was probably the best play-by-play guy, and was also a good interviewer. Was a good foil, again, for guys like Dusty and Flair and so forth, so could do it all. So you'd have to have Gordon, I think. Bobby Heenan was a great analyst, a heel analyst. He was
awesome,
which was part of the fun. A lot of people liked Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan as a tandem, and understandably so. And then Gene on promos. There was so many. One thing, with the territories, if you grew up in the South, like we, Gordon was the voice out of Atlanta, and so you identified so much with him, and not so much with some of the WWE guys until they got bigger later on. Lance Russell in Memphis is a guy who got some mention too, that really was the key to that Lawler Kaufman, was extremely good in Memphis, and then the Birmingham area people, they'll remember Sterling Brewer, who was a fascinating personality, but he did Saturday Night Wrestling in Birmingham, and was really for that market, for a little studio crowd of 30 wrestling, setting up the Monday night show at Boutwell. So it was good. So, but nationally speaking, I think Solon, Ross, Heenan, Okerlund would probably be your guys.
I'm with you on that. That's my three-man booth too. Heenan was He was Oscar award-winning hilarious at times, I thought. I mean, the way he played it and just his ability on his feet was great stuff. Hey, Cecil, as always, we appreciate you joining us here on the show. Safe travels out to the West Coast here in the next day or so. Look forward to catching up with you out at Levi's Stadium on Monday, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks, Cecil.
Okay, Travis. See you soon.